Tonight, major questions about how Ottawa is making decisions about our fishery.
This is really, really disturbing for every one of us.
Documents obtained by CBC show the federal government ignored scientists when it reopened the commercial cod fishery.
Public health says there's a province-wide outbreak of whooping cough.
But now we're starting to see cases across the rest of the province, and so with about 230 cases confirmed cases since the beginning of the year, we now really have to say that this is a province-wide outbreak.
I'm Heather Gillis, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
A Cornerbrook family still has to keep their son, who has disabilities, home from school because of inadequate supports. And they say they can't get any answers from the Department of Education about what they're going to do about his school career.
So it's angering, and it breaks my heart for him.
When we talk about being inclusive in our school system, where is that? Is that just a word?
We'll have more on this tonight on Here and Now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. The federal fisheries minister ignored scientific advice from DFO when she reopened the commercial cod fishery last June. A briefing note shows political advisors to Diane Laboutier believed putting an end to the moratorium would help the Liberals score a major political victory. Radio Canada's Patrick Butler has the story.
It's a 3-page briefing note from last May that really couldn't be clearer. DFO staff recommended keeping the moratorium on northern cod and the stewardship fishery practiced only by inshore harvesters. They also advised Federal Fisheries Minister Diane Laboutier not to change existing quotas. The political staff within the minister's office who wrote the briefing note admitted that, quote, certainly this option is based more on scientific advice, but they proposed an alternate course of action nonetheless, reopening the commercial cod fishery to larger inshore vessels and hiking the total allowable catch by 50%. In the 3-page briefing note, Laboutier's advisors reminded the minister that all 6 Liberal MPs from Newfoundland and Labrador supported reopening the commercial fishery. They said a significant increase to quotas would be a political victory in the province. In the end, political considerations won the day, with Laboutier lifting the moratorium and boosting the total allowable catch by 5,000 tonnes in June. Patrick Butler, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, the federal fisheries minister is defending the move, saying they're revitalizing this fishery carefully. And she spoke about it from the Liberal caucus retreat today.
I will always make decisions that protect the resource for future generations, using the advice of scientists, but also people from the fishing industry, from people on the water. We mix all that together to get the best decision possible.
But the decision by the feds to reopen the commercial cod fishery is drawing criticism. In a message to CBC, George Rose, who spent 40 years studying cod, says, I did not and do not believe that DFO Science would recommend the policy put forth by the minister. There's a long history with this and other Canadian fisheries of politics trumping science. Our fisheries continue to suffer. The move is also drawing condemnation from provincial politicians.
We thought we were at a place where politics would be removed from this decision-making process because it was politics that brought us here to begin with. And your report this morning, the CBC report, Patrick, really just exposed the fact we are no further ahead. This is, I think, the worst case scenario that we could ever imagine, because it tells us, it informs us that there have been no lessons learned whatsoever. This is really, really disturbing for every one of us.
They were only interested in the next election, and what does it mean for that? And that is such a wrong decision to make. And if we're not going to make decisions based on evidence, based on science, then why are we making them? And that's why it's so critical now for Newfoundland and Labrador to have a seat at the table, to be involved in those decisions, and what that looks like. We use the words joint management. It could be something like an accord, but we clearly need to be at the table.
Now to some health news. Public Health has declared a province-wide whooping cough outbreak. There have been 230 cases this year with 5 hospitalizations. And as Here and Now's Heather Gillis reports, schools plan to vaccinate students earlier.
Whooping cough or pertussis starts like any common cold, but has one defining feature, says Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, the province's top public health official.
So people just cough and cough and cough and cough and cough and cough until they run out of breath, and then they take in a big inhalation of air, so they get that big whoop at the end of it.
She says there have been 230 confirmed cases in the province since the beginning of the year. That's compared to 2 to 5 cases in an average year.
Here we now really have to say that this is a province-wide outbreak.
Fitzgerald says there have been 190 cases in the eastern region, 14 in central Newfoundland, 20 on the west coast, and 6 are in the Labrador-Grenville Health Zone. Fitzgerald says an outbreak was first reported in May with 42 cases in the eastern region. 5 people have been hospitalized, but no deaths have been reported. Most cases are up to date with vaccines.
Actually, the majority of cases, over 60% of the cases that we have, are actually in school-age children, and especially we're seeing it in that junior high group.
Fitzgerald says waning vaccine immunity in that population is driving the outbreak.
It's not that people aren't getting vaccinated. I've heard that narrative around this, and I really want to dispel that right now. Our province is exceptionally good at availing of childhood vaccinations. Over 95% of kids at 2 are vaccinated completely, have their primary series against pertussis.
Fitzgerald says this year kids will be vaccinated 1 full school year earlier.
Public Health generally sends home consent forms for grade 9 to get their booster vaccine. But this year, grade 8 parents will be seeing those, parents and guardians will be seeing those consent forms as well. So make sure you get them signed off and sent back so we can roll this out as quickly as possible.
Fitzgerald said adults also need a booster vaccine to protect against whooping cough 10 years after their junior high school dose. She says some pregnant women need them too, and so do people who spend time around small children. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
A local advocate for air travelers says the potential Air Canada pilot strike could hit Newfoundland and Labrador hard. Talks between Air Canada and the union that represents most of its pilots are near an impasse. The airline is preparing for a shutdown as early as next week. Air Canada pilots will be in a legal strike position September 17th. The St. John's International Airport Authority says it's monitoring the situation, but in a geographically isolated province, Woodrow French says suspended service will hurt.
Naturally, we're going to be really inconvenienced because we're at the end of the line, and we have such a small population. We're definitely going to be impacted from a passenger perspective, and also we have to be concerned about a freight issue as well, because we get a lot of goods that come in here by aircraft. So I think we're going to be really impacted with this strike, and it's probably going to be as visible, certainly, as the ferry shutting down or anything like that.
A follow now to a story we brought you last night on Here and Now about the Broadbent family. They're still waiting and wondering why their son's support hours at school have been cut. Both levels of government are silent. Meanwhile, the young boy remains out of the classroom. Here and Now's Colleen Connors has more on this story.
The Broadbent family is still waiting for any answers. And so is CBC. Despite days and days of asking both levels of government for answers about their son Obi's situation, still nothing. And Obi is still out of school. He has Pura syndrome and requires constant care. The money to pay for that usually comes from both the Provincial Education Department and from Jordan's Principal, a federally funded program that provides supports and equipment for Indigenous children with disabilities. But this school year started with a major disappointment.
So now we have this lose-lose situation. So we have hardly any supports from the school and hardly any supports offered by Jordan's principal.
When school started, they found out Obi has only been allotted 1.5 hours of one-on-one time with an educational support worker out of his 4-hour school day. That's a cut from last year when he had support all day.
And if he's not in a safe environment, then he could, be a danger to himself. And if someone also has to supervise another student with potentially high needs, we don't know what the other student's needs would be, OB's safety isn't insured. And I think any parent would be at the very least reluctant to send their child to school if their safety couldn't at least be insured as a basic, guarantee.
And government refuses to talk about why those hours have been cut. The family met with the school district director, who defended the move, and they hope to meet with school administration to make a plan. Meanwhile, the Department of Education won't answer questions, leading to criticism from the opposition.
Why does a parent have to wait until September to find out how many hours that their children will receive? This is the problem. There is that lack of communication and lack of commitment.
The Progressive Conservatives say the government should have had the right amount of student assistance in place long before now.
Where was the planning? This just didn't happen. Where is it? Where are we? When we talk about being inclusive in our school system, where is that? Is that just a word? Or is the government prepared to actually do something to make that happen?
And again, despite another request by CBC, the Department of Education is still saying nothing. As for the federal government and Indigenous Services Canada, which oversees the Jordan's Principle, they're also refusing to answer any questions. Meanwhile, the Broadbents and other parents are gathering later this week for a public meeting to discuss what to do next. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
The opposition's health critic says nurses and doctors have been cut out of the province's health care plan. According to government, 660 nurses have been recruited since April of 2023, but the Registered Nurses Union is questioning those numbers. President Yvette Coffey told CBC last week that the healthcare system is critically understaffed, and she's hearing new graduates looking for work aren't being hired. PC critic Barry Pettin is questioning that and the province's move to offer $75,000 to physicians who commit to a family care team for 1 year.
Ms. Coffey pointed out emergency rooms are overflowing through lack of family doctors, nurses are overworked. To be told they're told there's nurses in the system, no one can tell them where they're to. There's no HR plan. I mean, there's a lot of questions. Then you go over to the NLMA and Dr. Major, and it's pointing out to give this $75,000 incentive. What for? So you're only moving chairs. There's no new doctors coming in the system. And he pointed out another question: is it not a violation of collective agreement? So government got to start collaborating with these people. I mean, and Dr. Major said they were not consulted. I mean, you shake your head. I mean, you don't have to have a PhD to figure out there's something not right here.
The head of a local outreach group in St. John says they're seeing unprecedented demand for help in the city's downtown core. The situation has led Thrive to start a new street outreach program in the area. They now have 2 workers in the downtown twice a day to support people on the street there. It's paid for by $150,000 from the city, and it comes at a time when businesses and residents in the area say they're dealing with a rise in crime and issues like aggressive panhandling and people struggling with mental health issues, homelessness, or addiction. Sean Reaney, the program director at Thrive, says as a whole, they've seen a 100% increase in demand from last year.
A lot of people are coming for basic stuff like personal care items, soap, shampoo, that sort of thing, assistance with transportation, food. A lot more what we're seeing is people coming in who are facing eviction, a lot of people coming in with Newfoundland power bills that they can't pay, a lot of folks coming in unmedicated, mental health issues without any proper supports, and a lot of folks coming in with no housing.
Well, next year's Canada Games are going to look a little different, or rather, you'll be able to look for them in a different place. For the first time, the Games will have an interactive app. The host committee debuted the plan in St. John's today alongside BMO, the presenting partner of the app and of the Games soccer events. The 2025 Games are being held in St. John's, and organizers say this will help fans and family who can't travel with the young athletes keep up with what's happening.
keep track of schedules. There'll be interactive maps. It will also allow them to link to the broadcasting portion of this hub as well, which will allow them to view the competition if, for example, they're not able to be here. So it's a huge exciting opportunity and the first of its kind in the games, to be honest, to allow really the whole country to be connected via this digital hub and this app that we'll be launching mid-November.
Well, the humidity is gone. We've got a bit more rain on the way in some cases, but temperatures are going to start to warm up. I'll get into all the details coming up.
Time for a look at the weather. And Ashley, my ears perked up just before the break when you said that there's going to be a little bump in the temperature. So it's going to be getting warmer.
For a little while, and then we're going to see temperatures drop back off again, feeling definitely more September-like, much cooler than what we have been seeing. But for now, let's enjoy the warm air. Less humid, though, today, that's for sure. Let's take a look at what was happening across the province. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we are in September 10th, and that is the peak of the hurricane season. And you can see that here. We typically, this is when we typically see the most amount of activity in the Atlantic Basin. There's not a whole lot going on, though, in the Atlantic Basin at the moment, but we do have Tropical Storm Francine. This is the 5th storm of the season, and we are going to see that, in fact, strengthen and then head toward Louisiana as we head into Wednesday with max sustained winds around 150 kilometers per hour. Now, like I said, pretty quiet as far as the Atlantic season goes so far, but we're not going to see any effects from this system as we head through the next couple of days, but definitely in the southern state. So as far as what's going on now, we certainly felt tropical the last couple of days. Very different story today. 19 degrees in St. John's, 20 in Gander, 19 in Twillingate as well. Really 19 is pretty much for a good chunk across the board. Up across Labrador as well. We've got about 19 degrees in Cartwright this afternoon, 14 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and hanging on to those single digits in Nain. In fact, some portions of northern Labrador saw a bit of snow the last night, and that's all thanks to an area of low pressure that is spinning, bringing that southerly flow. Lots of cloud cover across the island as well. Some showers earlier today. In some cases, still sticking around, but they're very isolated in nature. But we do still have some of that shower activity offshore. We may see some showers tonight. I think they'll be fairly isolated across eastern portions of the island. But overall, we are looking at temperatures now into the upper teens, low 20s. And again, very little humidity. It is feeling more like 20 in St. John's, but not nearly as warm as it was yesterday, and down to the single digits. Lab City 8 degrees, Churchill Falls 7 degrees, and Makkovik currently at 6. So that area of low pressure going to continue to spin to the north there. Again, there is the chances, especially in the higher elevations, that we may see a few flurries from this, but overall, most of the activity from the couple of troughs that are going to move through will be across the island. So we're looking at the chances some showers overnight tonight along the south coast of the island, and in and around the Port aux Basques area. Overall temperatures really going to dip for Lab City down to -2 overnight tonight with clear skies. Risk of frost as you head towards Happy Valley Goose Bay. So if you still have any frost sensitive plants that you'd like to save, you're definitely going to want to cover those up. Sitting in around 4 to 7 degrees across the Big Land, except along the Strait where you're still sitting around 11 or 12 degrees. Most areas across the island will be between 11 and 15, or 10 and 15 rather, low-lying areas. You will likely see your temperatures dip into the single digits overnight tonight. And as we head into tomorrow, a little bit unsettled. We're still looking pretty much a similar forecast to what we saw today. So unsettled conditions, some cloudy periods at times, chance of showers, particularly through central in the first half of the day. Then another round of showers moving from west to east will move in, clearing skies in behind that for the west. But you'll likely see some showers again through central areas of Labrador, the island. Labrador, most will stay cloudy through the day, but we are looking at some clearing skies in and around Lab West. Taking a look at the temperatures for tomorrow, we should be sitting around the 20-degree mark for most areas, or the upper teens. Really, most of eastern Newfoundland should be sitting around 20 or 21, even 22 degrees certainly possible. Up across Labrador, you are looking at temperatures in the 8 to 10 degree mark for the north coast, otherwise in the mid to, well, I guess low to mid-teens through the day.
Yes, back to school. We'd like to share some of the entries sent in for our back to school photo contest. We asked to see your first day of school photos from this year or from years long gone by, some of them very long gone by. Just check these out. Yes, this wonderful side-by-side is from Kara. That's her first day of school on the left. Back in 1983, Kara went on to be a kindergarten teacher 15 years in and says she still loves it. And the second photo there is from this year's first day of school. So thank you so much for sharing.
Great picture. And John sent in this picture of her two brothers heading out for their first day of school in Milltown back in 1970. She says the boys were born almost 2 years apart and were often dressed like twins.
Those pants, my goodness. And this is our winner for oldest entry. Look at how beautiful this is. Maureen shared her first day picture back when she went to an all-girls school in Aberdeen, Scotland. The year was 1943. She was just 4 years old. Just beautiful.
So great. And Catherine sent in this side-by-side of her grandson, Simon, his first day of grade 6, and then this year's picture starting grade 11. And here's Rich's first day back to school back in 1969 in Bayvert. Definitely looking sharp.
Oh, yes, very sharp. And speaking of sharp, just check this out. Who can resist a three-piece suit on their first day of school? Rodney had a briefcase when he headed off to school in 1977. And that piece of paper there in his jacket, that's his name, home address, and phone number, just in case he got lost. That is just so precious. Thank you so much for sending those in. Love seeing those photos, especially the old ones are just fantastic. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in their photos.
Yeah, so we have a couple of back to school prize bags up for grabs. Stick around, we'll reveal the winners at the end of tonight's show.
A lot more what we're seeing is people coming in who are facing eviction, a lot of people coming in with Newfoundland power bills that they can't pay, a lot of folks coming in unmedicated, mental health issues without any proper supports.
Well, coming up on Here and Now, I'll connect with Thrive outreach workers in downtown St. John's. They'll share what they're seeing on the streets of St. John's. That's coming up next on Here and Now.
Hills.
Well, whether you live, work, or just visit downtown St. John's, you may have noticed an increase in the amount of visible poverty, homelessness, people who are panhandling, asking for money. Well, the City of St. John's is now funding a new program, $150,000 going to an outreach program to help people who are living on the streets. And joining me now is Sean Reaney, the program coordinator with Thrive. So, Sean, can you tell us a bit about this program and the need that's out there right now?
Yeah, so this is a newish program where we're increasing our street outreach walks to the downtown to bring supports to individuals who are outside and street involved, just to meet where they're at.
And it said that in the news release that you're seeing unprecedented demand for services right now. Can you talk to me more about that and what you're seeing?
Yeah, so in the first quarter this year, we've had more than 100% increase over what we saw last year. I think we had 3,000 interactions in drop-in, or 4,000, up from like 1,500 in just this quarter. So a lot more demand for the supplies that we provide, a lot more need for supports. It's all just way off the charts.
What sorts of things are you seeing out there? The people who are coming to visit you, what do they need?
Well, a lot of people are coming for basic stuff like personal care items, soap, shampoo, that sort of thing, assistance with transportation, food. A lot more what we're seeing is people coming in who are facing eviction, a lot of people coming in with Newfoundland power bills that they can't pay, a lot of folks coming in unmedicated, mental health issues without any proper supports, and a lot of folks coming in with no housing.
And what kind of supports does this program give? What do these folks get when they receive help from your group?
Yeah. So in terms of the outreach, you'll get a snack, some personal care supplies, harm reduction supplies, socks, someone to chat with, but more importantly, getting connected to services that they need. So a lot of the folks that we're talking to aren't connected with a support worker of any kind, and in the city right now there's a huge backlog, so a lot of people are waiting, have applied to get hooked up with a worker, but are unable to do so because of demand. So these guys are basically doing referrals for people, helping sort of bridge the gap until they get more permanent supports.
And joining me now are those two outreach workers. We have Jody Rossiter and Andrew French. So Jody, can you talk to me about what you do and who you encounter throughout your day?
Yeah, okay. So what we do is we go out on 2 walks a day, Monday to Friday, and we fill our bags with different items that might be helpful for people who are in community, folks who are experiencing poverty, housing insecurity, or homelessness or rooflessness, folks who maybe are needing to get connected to different supports. So we go out and we just meet individuals, give snacks, check in with folks, see if there's anything that they need and any way that we can help.
So if you see someone who's just sitting on the sidewalk, they're panhandling, you just take it upon yourself to go up to them and ask them if they need anything.
Yeah, well, we try to show as much dignity as possible because some folks are really want to engage, but there's also a huge stigma attached to folks panhandling, so they're kind of weary of other people approaching, so try to just go with the flow and respect them as much as possible and see if they need anything.
What kind of reaction do you usually get?
Well, since we started, we actually gained quite a great rapport with the folks who are around, so there's a lot of jubilance, I guess, when they see us, which is really awesome.
And Jody, do you have a sense of what kind of a difference this outreach work makes in those people's lives?
Yeah, I think, just the relationship aspect of seeing folks every day in a setting that they're familiar with and where people, choose to be, I think, has a positive impact. And then also being able to provide, food, water, again, access to service connection, referrals to supports, calls to the shelter line, those sorts of things. I think it definitely has a positive impact. I think if we could be down here 24/7, we would be busy. So, you know, there are more needs than we can meet, but I do think that, you know, there is a positive impact.
And how busy are you? Like, how many people do you think you have spoken to, you've offered help to since you started this outreach work?
I think in our first report that spanned about a month and a half period, we had 187 unique individuals that we were seeing on a regular basis, and then there was another 100 plus people who we'd seen once or twice. Mm-hmm.
And what is your approach when you do encounter people down here? Like, how do you approach your work in terms of your interactions with them?
I think we use sort of a harm reduction, trauma-informed approach, and we really work on building relationships with people, finding out, you know, where they are, what it is they're looking for, what help they want from us, and then trying to go from there.
As someone who speaks with those people a lot, like throughout your entire day, what would you like the general public to know about these people?
For the vast majority, they're absolutely lovely. And it's really not something to be afraid of. And they're just people trying to get by. And the situation that they found themselves in, it's a lot of systemic stuff that's happening.
The French name, I don't think I would have chosen Victoire.
I'm excited to keep watching them, keep supporting them.
Well, the name game is over for the Professional Women's Hockey League. We'll get the rundown and hear the history that inspired those new logos. That's a little later on Here and Now. Well, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It's a day dedicated to reducing the stigma that surrounds mental health and raising awareness about suicide prevention. Chandra Kavanagh is head of the provincial chapter of the Canadian Mental Health Association. She stopped by our CBC radio studio this morning.
We provide education and training for suicide awareness, intervention, and prevention. So if you're in a situation where you see that your community is struggling, where you'd like to be part of it, where you'd like to be able to help, we have extensive training we can offer so that you can feel very confident going into a situation where someone's disclosed to you. So I myself had that feeling of, I don't know what to do if someone says to me, I'm having thoughts of suicide. And so I took the training. The training is called Assist. It's 2 days. And now I can say very confidently that if someone comes to me or if I suspect someone is having thoughts, I'm comfortable to ask the question and I know what to do next. I know how to make a plan to help keep that person safe for now. So I think that these initial workshops that we're having today are really your introduction to the suicide safer community so that you can think about whether this training could benefit you and could benefit your community at large.
And if someone is worried about a person that they know, what are some steps that they can take to help?
So I think noticing is the first step. Often, unfortunately, we don't notice when someone is struggling. And lots of times people will actively try to disguise it or hide that they're struggling. They don't want to be a burden. So I think paying attention, noticing what's happening is very important. Have a list of resources ready if that's something that you're able to do. So knowing the number 988, knowing the number to the warm line, Bridge the Gap is another really great resource. If you're not in a place or your friend or family member is not in a place where they can get their physical body to a therapy session, where they're not willing to make a phone call, this is an online resource. There are so many different resources that they link to. So that can be a really nice first step, going to bridgethegap.ca. And from there, if you have those resources available, I would say engage in some training. So reach out to CMHANL, do a couple of days of training, and you can feel very, very confident about doing an intervention with someone who you're worried about. And also you can look for the signs in yourself and have a skill set and a toolbox that can help you if you're struggling.
Well, some seniors with mobility issues on PEI are on the move, feeling the wind in their hair thanks to some special e-bikes. As you're about to hear, 2 seniors' homes say it's exactly what their residents deserve, building community connections and a better quality of life.
I love it. I think it's great. Maybe I could learn to run it and be the captain of the ship. Hi!
So we are pleased to introduce 3 trishaws to the Summerside area. One at Somerset Manor, one at Wedgwood Manor, and one at the Community Connections.
They're an electronic bike. You do have to pedal a little bit, but it's assisted pedaling that you can take residents or clients out on.
Nobody wants to spend their day inside all the time. And if we have something like this, then it gives us that opportunity to get out and breathe in some fresh air and feel alive.
That allows 2 people to sit side by side, and they're buckled in. And the pilot, who's been specially trained for people with mobility issues, takes them around through protected bike pathways and safe streets.
Recreation, occupational therapists, and physiotherapists are been doing the program now for a number of weeks, and residents are really enjoying it.
Have fun, Cecil.
Yeah.
Yep. We're always looking for creative ways to improve the quality of life for our residents at both manors. And when this opportunity came, these bikes were donated to us, initiated by Dr. Richard Wedge.
So the Cycling Without Age chapter here in Summerside went to the Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club took on the cause and raised $36,000, which they then donated to Cycling Without Age in order to allow the purchase of these first 3 trishaws.
Does it bring back memories?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
It does? starting to wave to people then that were driving, and you know, for them just to wave back and say hello will really add to the experience for residents.
They're why we're there, yeah. We want them to experience the most they can, yeah. And have a quality of life, right, that they deserve, yeah. And this brings quality of life as well.
Being a citizen of the Wedgwood Manor now, and not able to get out and around on my own as much, it's a good thought that maybe today I can get out on that rickshaw and go for a ride.
It's a big night for U.S. politics. Democratic Party nominee Kamala Harris and Republican Party candidate Donald Trump will face off tonight in Philadelphia in the first and possibly only U.S. presidential debate, each hoping to sway voters in what polls suggest is a razor-tight race. CBC's Richard Madden has a preview from Washington.
Final preparations are underway in Philadelphia ahead of tonight's historic debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Polls are suggesting a tightening race, so pressure is on both candidates to perform well and win. Now, Trump's advisors say he'll zero in on economic anxieties and link Harris to unpopular policies under the Biden administration.
He has to focus on what he has focused on primarily throughout the whole campaign trail, talking about bringing down inflation, talking about securing that southern border, and making sure that he holds Kamala's feet to the fire.
Harris advisors say she'll present a positive vision for the country, but expect Trump will launch personal attacks and an onslaught of lies.
Vice President Harris is going to articulate a forward-looking, inclusive agenda to make life better for everyday Americans and create a clear contrast to the chaos, dysfunction, and extremism that Donald Trump will visit upon the American people.
Now, this will be an especially crucial moment for Harris. She's enjoyed a wave of momentum since her ascendancy atop of the ticket last month, but many voters still don't know what she stands for, and Trump has been eagerly trying to define it for them, launching this new attack ad today in battleground states.
Why hasn't she done it?
This undecided voter is among the many who will be listening to Harris very carefully.
This is her chance to get her message out, to get her personality out there, and really to find out what her policies are. She really hasn't, she spoke to the teleprompter the last 15 times I've saw her.
Now, tonight's debate begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and this will also be the first time these bitter rivals will meet in person. Whether they even shake hands at the start of the debate will likely set the tone for the rest of the evening. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
for details.
Fans of the Professional Women's Hockey League now have the name of the team they'll cheer for in the upcoming season. Last season's champions from the U.S. are now known as the Minnesota Frost. Sarah Levitt reintroduces us to the Canadian teams.
It's official, the teams have names and logos. Ones the Professional Women's Hockey League says are deeply rooted in the history of the home cities. Minnesota Frost, Toronto Scepters, Ottawa Charge, Victoire de Montréal, New York Sirens, and Boston Fleet.
Appelez for la Victoire de Montréal.
Donning brand new Montreal merch, the name an ode to the city's sporting successes, forward Catherine Dubois says she's absolutely thrilled.
I love the name. The name is very Montreal.
The PWHL had a wildly successful inaugural season, but it was condensed and the teams played without names.
We had the luxury to be able to experience, what fans experienced at games and get sentiments from across the board and really use those to help crystallize this.
One look on social media, though, and it's clear not all are on board with the names. Take the Ottawa Charge, inspired by the city's official motto, Advance, Ottawa en avant. The Ottawa Calgary Flames, one person writes. Another says, so much for buying merch. In Toronto, the league says the new name embodies the city's regal history.
Scepters?
Scepters of Toronto?
It sounds a little weird.
And Montreal?
I kind of like the French name. I don't think I would have chosen Victoire.
Many, though, are excited about connecting with their team more deeply.
I'm excited to keep watching them, keep supporting them.
And last season was bigger and better than I think we could have ever thought. And to see the fans that came out to all of our games to support us, to sell out arenas and set records day after day, it was crazy. And I think this season we're just looking to do the same.
Keeping that momentum begins with these fresh threads. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
It's exciting. And Ashley, I know you're a really big fan and you were really excited to hear what the new names were going to be. What's your take on it? Do you have a favorite or what do you think?
Scepters, for sure. I already bought a sweater. I'm curious to see what their uniforms look like.
Oh, right.
Their jerseys. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think my favorite, though, I love the Boston Fleet logo. I think it's great.
Oh, that one does kind of look like the Charge. Does kind of look like the
It does. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
They're their own team.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the long-range forecast. So we're going to see a little bit of a warm-up. How long is that going to last for?
Yeah, so a couple of days, and then we start to fall back into fall as we head through to the weekend. Temperatures are going to drop a little bit. So let's see what happens until we get there. So Wednesday evening, chance of a few showers pretty much across the board as another trough moves through. We should see clearing by Thursday morning. It does look beautiful. We'll still see clearing for most of Labrador as well as we head into the late day towards the coast. And then we'll see some more cloud cover move back in with the chance of showers as we head into the evening hours on Thursday. But again, temperatures through the day on Thursday really starting to take a little bit of a dive in some cases. So back down to the low to mid-teens, upper teens for central areas of Labrador central areas of the island rather, and towards the east. But the northern peninsula, west coast, you're going to stay in the low teens. And temperatures warming up across parts of Labrador as well, particularly the western portion of Labrador. 21 degrees will be your daytime high, again with the chance of some showers as you head towards the coast. So temperatures between 11 and 13 degrees through the day. Now, Friday starts beautiful. We should see plenty of sunshine for most of the island. The chance of some showers, though, for the northern peninsula and most of Labrador through the morning hours. We should see some clearing as the day goes on, but those showers will continue to work their way south across the island and even through central as we head into the afternoon hours. This is when we'll see a bit of a warm up. So temperatures will be sitting in the 20s, low 20s, upper teens, low 20s. And then Labrador will see a drop off in those temperatures. So between 10 to 15 degrees will be your daytime high on Friday as well. Then after this, cold front will sweep through as we head into Saturday. And this is when we're going to start to see those temperatures drop. Now, at this point, looking like between 12 to 14 degrees as we head through the weekend, and our overnight lows dipping into the single digits. And we're also looking at some unsettled conditions. So the chances of showers, however, there is still some sun in the mix there. But it does look unsettled through the weekend. And similar cool down for central and western Newfoundland as well, anywhere from 13 to 17 degrees as your daytime highs. Better chances of showers, though, as you head towards central Newfoundland. The western portion of the island looks actually pretty lovely, just some cloudy periods through the day in that time frame. And then for Labrador, you're looking at a pretty nice stretch of weather with a mix of sun and cloud or cloudy periods right through Sunday. Chances of, or rather temperatures will be between 14 and 15 degrees, and your overnight lows are really dipping as you head towards the weekend. And same thing for western Labrador, daytime highs between 13 to 16 degrees. But there will be some sunshine in the mix, and your overnight lows between 2 and 6 degrees. Now, our photo today, a lovely shot of Kitty Vitty there. Very calm day. Doug captured this shot a couple of days ago, he said. Great shot. Thank you for that. If you have any weather photos, you can send them to Facebook or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, classic shot of Kitty Vitty Village, Kitty Vitty Harbor. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Doug. And speaking of photos, as promised, before we go, we have the winners of our back to school photo contest. I actually wrote down all the names on little pieces of paper, and Jeremy Eaton pulled them out of a CBC hat. So that's nice. How we chose, in case you're wondering. So here are the winners. Kindergarten teacher Kara, that's her first day of school there on the left back in 1983. And this year's first day of school picture, she says 15 years teaching and she still loves it. So Kara, you're one of our winners. Congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, and secondly, we have Dawn. Dawn shared this picture of her two brothers heading out for their first day of school dressed like twins. She says they were born almost exactly 2 years apart. So this is their early happy birthday shout out from their sister. Just look at those pants.
I love those pants. It's a statement, and it's adorable to have them matching. So like we said, we will be in touch with our winners. So we have these bags that we'll send out to you with some goodies inside. So thank you to everyone who sent in the photos. It was so fun to see, particularly the older photos. It reminds me of like the birthdays and anniversaries.
Yes.
So it's always nice to see those old photos. So thank you so much. And that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you again tomorrow.